right. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming today, Monday, November 22nd. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I will note that all board members are present here today. And I will move to approve the minutes from November 15th, 2021 board meeting. If there's a second. Any question or comment about those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And on to the certification of the official results of the November 2nd, 2021 general election. Let's tee that up for us, the manager of the ballot department, Mr. Brian Cleary. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon. Brian Cleary, manager of ballot department. Before you should have copies of the November 2nd, 2021 general election certification report, official summary. You should have a write-in totals report and a Crossover County report for this election. There were a total of 232,149 ballots tabulated for this election, and they break down as follows. There were 146,686 cast on election day, 75,874 were cast vote by mail, 6,711 were cast early in person, 1,891 provisional ballots were cast. There were 403 post-election days. Those are curbside ballots. There were 584 post-vote by mails that were returned within the 10-day window and were postmarked correctly. And then you have a pie chart there depicting the overall totals. Moving on to the vote by mail early in person vote summary. There were a total of 94,443 ballots issued during the vote by mail and early in person voting periods. Of those ballots, 83,168 or 88.06% were returned and counted by the ballot department. There were a total of 1,137 challenge or late vote by mails early in person, resulting in a 1.35% challenge rate for this election. That challenge rate drops to 0.18% when you remove the voters who return their ballot late. And below that, you have various charts depicting the data groups above, the return rates, and then of the 146 that were actually challenged, you have an individual breakdown of each category and the number that were in those categories. And I'd be glad to take any questions you might have on the vote by mail or early in person summary. Hearing none, we'll move on to the provisional voting summary. A total of 2,055 provisional ballots were cast during the election. Of those ballots, 1,891 or 92.02% were valid and tabulated by the ballot department. There were a total of 164 in-ballot provisional ballots, resulting in a 7.98% rejection rate for the election. That rejection rate drops to 3.26% when provisional voters who had already cast a vote by mail ballot or who weren't registered for the election are excluded. And below that, you have a chart that depicts all 164 invalid ballots and the reasons that they were rejected. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have on the provisional summary. Hearing none, we'll move on to the ballot remake portion. During this election, 564 ballot sheets were processed in accordance with the remake policy that was approved by the board on May 17, 2013. That makes for an overall remake rate of 0.718%. If you exclude UO counties and they voted for an ineligible contest, those are your PWP original ballots. That remake rate drops to 0.588%. And then you have of the 11 categories that are approved in our policy, you have a breakdown of each, how many were in each category for the election. There were a total of 593 overvotes reported for the election, resulting in a 0.255% overvote. There were 975 precincts involved in this election. Voter history is complete. And ballot reconciliation is also complete. There are a total of 5 automatic recounts for this election, and they are Lakewood Council at Large, Mayfield Heights Council at Large, University Heights Council at Large, Berea City School District Member of Board of Education. This is the only race that flipped from unofficial to official. The individual that was in third place is now in fourth. The individual who was in fourth place is now in third. And then Maple Heights Board of Education member as well. The recount schedule will be posted upon certification. Each one will be done a different day next week. I just remind everyone when you're calculating the recount percentage for a multiple vote for, that percentage is calculated differently than a normal election. The requested recount deadline is Monday, November 29th at 4 p.m. The post-election audit will be conducted on Monday, December 13th at 9 a.m. The criteria for the audit is slightly changed, is why we won't be doing a random selection this time. The Secretary of State changed the audit selection criteria. They assigned us congressional district 11, if you had a congressional district, and they also asked, instead of just randomly selecting, that now we pick the races that have the 2 highest vote totals, so that for us, that gives us a total of 3 races of congressional 11, Cleveland mayor, and issue 24 to the audit. We will also, upon completion of November, we will have the September election, which we previously selected, which is Cleveland Ward 2. Just like to point out, for the official write-ins will be posted after the election. And so Mr. Taylor is here. He did, his vote total did go up. We got 3 votes for Mr. Taylor. So just want to make that, get that on the official.
Well, that's, we anticipated that could be the case.
That's correct. We were unofficial, and we had finished counting, and we have now. We will hit your total of total.
I think on the day when we met last week, it was 1, but
That's
we haven't been through all the official canvas.
Yes. And then the rest of the data is all historical data. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer at this time.
I do, Brian. So we have 5 recounts. Your staff or the board will notify those individuals of the date and time.
That's correct. After this, we will send certified letters to every member of every recount, even if they're outside the margin of victory. That's just our policy of the board. We'll let them know the date and time. We'll let them know they don't have to come. If they'd like to, we're more than happy to have them here. We will notify everyone upon completion of the recount if anything changed or if it stayed the same. We will contact every candidate and let them know the recount is complete and here's the outcome of the response.
And we'll recertify those recounts.
Yes.
Then too, when we meet
That's
again in probably December 6th.
December
8th. Right, okay. And one other question, I don't know, you may know the answer to this. What if someone wants a recount, they have to pay how much a precinct? Is that, is it $50?
I want to say $60 a precinct.
$60 a precinct.
I think it was 60 or 65.
60 or 65.
I think it just went up according to the, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
No, it's 65.
I just know there's some very close races
There
still
are.
that are just outside.
Just
there.
outside the request recount.
That, if people are watching and want to know that they have to pay $65 a precinct, they would make arrangements to the director, deputy director's office, and then.
They actually, so if someone is interested in requesting a recount, they would go to our second floor customer service counter and they would file there. What an individual needs to understand is that when they file, they have to file for everything that they're interested in. So for example, let's say the city of Cleveland is 332 precincts. They go, well, I'm going to pay for 10, and then hopefully they find something and they automatically have to expand it out. No. What you designate, what you pay for, that is what we recount, and we don't go above and beyond that. They have to pay for that at the onset. So they need to know that. So they need to come prepared to pay for it and defining what they want.
I'd also like to add that if recount, we call the Secretary of State's recount directive. Everyone thinks we're going to hand count the entire race. That's not the case. We hand count 5%. We then run that through the machines if it matches. We then rescan all the ballots in that election. If it doesn't, we try to figure out why. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, when we give the extra. But a lot of people get disappointed. They come in and think we're going to hand count the entire race. That's not the case. It's only 5%.
Question on that, on the audit directive. So we have to count or audit the races with the top two vote totals. Is there a cap on that? What if ever, I mean, how is it that we don't get to say we're only doing one with the top 2 vote totals? Why, as opposed to, so now we have 3 races with, I'm not clear, and I'll have to look at the directive again, but I'm just wanting to be, is there a cap on the number of races that we have to audit?
So they, and actually they believe they sent it in an email. I don't even think it was necessarily in the directive. So what they said was, they came up with different criteria. And what they said was,
Did we get that? Because I don't remember seeing
you
it.
probably did it because I think it was an internal operational email, but we could forward it. And what they said was, if you were involved in either the 11th or 15th congressional, so we're the 11th, you're going to do that one. And then it goes on and it put a couple different scenarios. It says, then we want you to look for a countywide candidate or countywide issue and go ahead and do that. Now, if we have multiple countywide candidates, we would probably be pulling on which one of those it is, but we don't have any countywide candidates or countywide issues. So then it goes on to say, if you don't have that, we want you to look at the contests that had the candidates race that had the largest turnout, or an issue that had the largest turnout, and include those. So that's where we went with that.
So there are specific parameters that we are able to filter out. It may be some elections, it may be 2 different races, it may be 3 different races, or is there, if you send that to me, I won't have to ask these
Yeah,
questions, but
I will.
I just, yeah, it's just, I'm like, where they come from? Because, you know, the whole goal is to not have to audit the entire election,
Right.
but just some of the races that,
And-
okay,
And what he,
fine.
and
Send it to
so
me.
we'll send that. And so basically all 88 counties have to do 3.
Okay, it's
But
3,
we're all doing 3, all 88. What 3 you do, you know,
okay,
it depends on how it fits into that criteria.
okay,
But I
Thank you.
will definitely forward that email.
okay, that'd be helpful, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Cleary? Okay, we're done with your presentation, so I'll go through a litany of motions here. I'll move to authorize to approve the remake of the optical scan ballots from the November 2nd, 2021 general election as set forth in our agenda. If there's a second.
Second.
Any further questions on that matter? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize to approve absentee ballots from the November 2nd, 2021 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Any further questions on that matter? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
A motion to note that it passed unanimously. A motion to authorize to approve the provisional ballots from the November 2nd, 2021 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Any further question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. It passed unanimously, and I think it's got around here the acknowledgement of the pre and post test results of the voter tabulation system from the November 2nd, 2021 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, those signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I move to acknowledge the official district-wide results of the November 2nd, 2021 general election from Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, and Summit counties. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And I will then therefore move to certify the official results of the November 2nd, 2021 general election for 2021. If there's a second.
Second.
Any further comment or question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, staff. Thank you. All right then, we'll move on to the next item, which is the acknowledgement of date, time, and place of the post-election audit for November 2nd, 2021 general election. Mr. Cleary's indicated to us it's going to be is it
Monday, December 13th
Monday, December 13th,
at 9 a.m.
and it's going to be the 11th congressional district,
That'll
right?
be the first one.
As directed by the Secretary of State's office. Okay, well, minutes will reflect that date and time and that race.
Yeah, right. Well, and that'll be the first of 3.
3,
So we will do a total of 3. For that, it'll probably take us 2 to 3 days to get through all those.
And the other two were you had asked about.
Correct. So the other 2, so what we know is the other 2 will be the City of Cleveland mayoral race, and then the other one will be the City of Cleveland issue 24
Okay, the ballot issue.
ballot issue.
I move to acknowledge those dates, times, and place. Did a second? Did we take a vote?
no, I
No,
don't think
if there's
so.
a second on that, thank you.
Mhm.
Any further question or comment? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And on to, I will acknowledge the resignation of one elected official from Jim Carbone from Strongsville City Council member at large. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wondolowski. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Carlotti, do you have any new business for the board? Oh, no, excuse me, we have one walk-on item, that's correct. The authorization, it's a voucher. I'll move to approve the voucher for marketing communications resources in the total of $37,931.50. That's the vendor that prints our poll books that we're still required to have hard copies of on election day.
That is correct.
And that's going to still happen going forward next
Yeah.
year too.
Yeah, we'll continue to always have that as a safeguard. We're actually required to pursuant to the Secretary of State, and it's a good practice to, it's one of those things that you get and you hope you never have to use.
Right. Ms. Susie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just that you did approve the purchase award on October 18th at your board meeting, and this is slightly less by what, we approved $38,146.05, and this is slightly less than the purchase order.
Thank you. Still appreciate that. Any other question or comment on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And Mr. Pilati, any new business for the board?
Yeah, couple quick updates. One is with the post-election audit, we were contacted and Secretary LaRose intends on visiting us on the opening day on the 13th. we'll have a phone call with their office next week to try to get some particulars on what time he may be coming, and we'll make you aware of that. I think he just wants to come and get a look to see how the experts audit elections. So it's that. So again, I'll let you know what time he plans on coming, if that is going to happen. As far as the November 2nd election, there is one item I just want to briefly discuss. On election night, we had a little bit of an unexpected curveball in that some of the law enforcement officers that we contracted with to come drive vans did not appear. And so we needed to figure out how to work through that, and we did work through that, and the county sheriff's department was critical in helping us resolve that. We had a call to figure out why did this happen, because Willow Security is a company who's been doing that for about 4 years, and they've always delivered for us. And what we found is, in general, throughout police departments throughout Cuyahoga County, and definitely so in the city of Cleveland, there's a lot of understaffing going on. And that's resulting in a lot of officers being mandated to overtime towards the end of their shift. And that was, we were short 23 officers. We found out about this a little after 6 o'clock on election night. And looking through that, officers were mandated. And so they were not able to appear. And so we worked through that. Going forward, we need to figure out how do we cover for this. And one thing will be is that they need to provide our contact with more information or more time on when they're being mandated, so we can have time to try to triage through. I think this board will have to work maybe directly with some of the municipalities, and we can work with some of the chiefs of police to see what their staffing levels are. Are they in mandation situations? And then maybe be able to pull from those areas where that won't be the case. And also maybe spread out a little bit where we get these resources. So not necessarily having all our eggs in one basket, have a couple of resources that we can pull from, so that if one is struggling, maybe we can go to another to help fill the void. So that was something that was an emergency situation that we worked through. We wanted to find out why, when we get the bill, all they bill us for are the actual officers who appeared and worked. So it's not like they get a blanket amount, regardless of who shows and doesn't show. They bill us for those individuals who did work. So
How many were we short again?
23. So they had committed to, I think, about 53, and 23 called off at the last minute. They provided us a lot more names at the start, but more than half of them didn't have a party affiliation, so we couldn't utilize them for this process. So that'll be another part 2 going forward into 2022. It's a year in which individuals can obtain a political affiliation in Ohio. So we want to make sure people understand that too, that they might want to do that.
Has that ever happened before? I don't recall hearing anything like that.
No,
In all these years.
we've always had a couple,
Yeah.
but not basically half of what we were expecting. So that, that was definitely not expected. So, but we worked with the county sheriff's office. They ended up coming up with the majority of the individuals. Originally, the sheriff's office couldn't provide us with this because they're short staffed. But at this point, in talking with them, to look at, you have to send bodies. This has to happen. And so they rearranged on that night to make it happen, and thankful for that.
Okay, and you have an election tomorrow?
We have an election tomorrow, Maple Heights. It's 2 precincts in District 6. Early voting closed today at 2 o'clock. I don't know how many folks came in today, but through Sunday, we had 13 early in-person voters. 2 came on Saturday, 2 came on Sunday. 66 ballot requests. And like through last week, we had 21 returned. I don't know what today's numbers are for return mail, but it's not necessarily a big whopper of an election, but it's very important. We'll have a lot of our internal resources handling, like working at the polls. There will be some poll workers that we do bring in. Today, election support delivered the equipment out to its Wiley Athletic Center. which is the athletic wing of their high school. We'll get there at 5:30 tomorrow, get it set up, be good to go.
We don't need a Monday night organizational meeting because they're home people we're gonna.
Exactly. So a combination of election support, the poll worker department, and Tony and I will get that set up at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
All right, perfect. Any other questions from the board about those two matters? So any other new business the board members want to talk about? Okay, hearing none.
Can I just do two quick things, Jeff?
Sure.
Just want to let you know, the county council redistricting that I talked about last meeting, staff did finish that. So we can have that completed. And by end of day today, we'll have our website updated. So our county council districts will be correct if anyone tries to go in and see what council district they belong to. I will send after this meeting an email to county council and to the law department who I communicated with previously on this, let them know that everything is up to date on that. And then just our website, the initial meetings that we've had have been going well. Staff have been very receptive to it. We do have some sessions next week. That I think Anna Joe maybe is Tuesday.
November 30th, I'm attending that.
Yeah, and I think Jeff, we're going to do it on Monday, so we'll be in good shape. Secretary of State's going to have about 5 people who are going to want to view it, and I think so far it's been a positive response.
And I see Brett's back here. Are we distributing petitions now, candidates, or
December 1st.
December 1st? Thank you. All right, any other, Tony, anything else? All right, none of that. We have some public comment. I will be moving to go into executive session, but we'll do that after the public comment. Not to keep you here, and we'll make that motion at the proper time. We have Mr. Jonathan Platt. Mr. Platt? Thank you for coming down, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Platt, you have 5 minutes to address the board, okay?
Fair enough. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard here today. And that's what I want to speak about today, being heard. Specifically, I want to address the quality of the audio in the streaming and recorded versions of the board's meetings. 1 week ago today, I attended a board meeting for the first time. I was favorably impressed with the way the board carries out its work before the public, the care and precision that is brought to counting votes and to responding to issues. However, later last week, I sought out the recorded version of that same meeting on YouTube, and frankly, the recording was a bit of a mess. There were comments made in the chat on YouTube during the meeting. One from Gene Madison stated, and I quote, "The video keeps going out and there is terrible feedback so as to make the reports unintelligible." Another from a user, ATS, states bluntly, "Audio is unintelligible." Now, I'm not Gene Madison, nor the user known as ATS, nor are these people friends or colleagues of mine. To my knowledge, I have not crossed paths physically or virtually with either of them. Nonetheless, I wholeheartedly share their concerns regarding the quality of the audio on the meetings available online. I implore you all to seek out and listen to the recorded versions of the meetings to hear for yourself the only way these meetings are accessible by those members of the public who do not attend in person, which is a task that some find dangerous, nay, life-threatening during the current worldwide pandemic. Those who know me know that I resort to imploration only rarely and only when warranted. Yet I do so implore today on this issue. It's beyond my abilities to clearly identify how this problem might be remedied. Yet it seems to me that the feedback and echo effects might be reduced, if not altogether, as a practical matter, eliminated by the board members muting their microphones when not in use, by muting their computer speakers, or by using headphone microphone combinations such as the one I hold in my hand right now. But I mention these only as suggestions of possibility. On this point, I defer to the more technically adept. My goal here today is merely to inform you about the problem in the hopes that it may be remedied.
Mr. Platt, thank you for your thoughtful comments. I know we had some problems last week at the beginning of the meeting, I remember. But you're correct. I mean, we have to have audio that the public can hear. It's just not acceptable. I don't think any of us are going to debate that. And I know the director and deputy, along with our IT people, will look into that and get it remedied immediately, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Platt. Bring it to our attention. We have Reverend Pinckney Butts. Ms. Butts.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Reverend.
Everybody.
Good afternoon.
All right. All right, that's some energy up in this house. I wanted to, first of all, just say good morning, but I disagree with the results from the official district-wide results as well as the November 2nd election. I disagree with it because there were people whose votes that were left out and things were not as they should have been. So I just wanted to just make my statement of disagreement with the results and see what I can do to help improve that process. Because like last week I had stated, I voted for Dantes, but it didn't show up in the records. Another thing, I would like to know what you all will do and what I can do to work with the community to get us more ballot boxes, sites where people can vote. You know how we have the discussion, there was only one ballot box, I believe, in Cuyahoga County or something along those lines. I'd like to have a discussion, putting all racial barriers and all these financial and social barriers to the back burner, and let's see what we can do to get the votes more inclusive. And then I wanted to ask you, who do you use for media and press that progress or show a positive image of our Board of Elections? Not always tragedy. Do you use only white mainstream media and press? Do you use people of color? What media and press do you use to help us in this Board of Elections? And I stated to you for several years now that my ballot disappeared in 2008. Not just here in Cuyahoga County, but in 2004, my ballot disappeared in the election. Betty Edwards, who was sitting behind me, I don't know if she's still back there or not, said she found my envelope. But if you go to the Board of Elections site, they had me living in Beechwood knowing I was registered to live in Cleveland. So something's wrong, Mr. Hastings. I always get you and Mr. Houston's name mixed up. Mr. Hastings.
You can call me Lieutenant.
And if mine was destroyed, would you please find out what happened in the process? And I'm not trying to have people go to jail over this kind of stuff. I just want it corrected and see what we can do so it doesn't happen to anybody else again. And when you go on voting sites, it looks like I didn't vote for 2 elections when I did vote. So would you please do the proper investigations or whatever the process is to see what the problem was? It could be just something minor so it doesn't happen to anybody else again. And I would like to have the disabled people more inclusive in the voting process. For instance, I had called down to the Board of Developmental Disabilities to ask if, just like we have a TTY for the tone deaf people, we need something for the blind and other disabled, because they're being left out of the processes and they don't know the laws if they are not capable and able to review them or have access to them. And I asked that disabled people not be treated like lepers back in the Bible days, where they were denied access to the temple and denied access to the community. People were afraid of them. And I want to know what I can do to help you all with this pandemic. The pandemic is not just COVID-19. The pandemic is this epidemic of violence. And I'd like to know, and I would like to sit down with you all if you would be willing to do so, and I could help bridge the gap between you and the faith community, as well as some other components in the community, so we can hear the voices of the people more clearly. Because when you're doing other things, I'm out there doing other things, and I'd like to bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend, for coming down. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you want me to get this to, who you want me
Yeah,
to?
Mr. Gallagher will take it from here. Thank you very much. Seeing no other public comment, thank you, Reverend Butts. I will move to go into executive session to discuss the matter of employee compensation. If there is a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sticken.
Yes.
Mr. Wondolowski.
Yes.
Ms. Chappelle.
Yes.
And Hastings is yes. Thank you all. We'll come out. We're not gonna have any other business to take care of. We're gonna just adjourn. No, we'll stay in recess again. Recess again. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful Thanksgiving, everyone.
You two have me. Have a safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you.